Welcome to the Better Business Beat, your go-to source for insights, stories, and conversations that matter to our community. I'm your host, Mechele Mills, and each week we explore topics which impact the way we live, work, and do business in East Texas. From smart consumer tips and local success stories to practical advice for navigating today's challenges, we are here to help you stay informed, empowered, and connected. So whether you're a consumer, a business owner, or someone who loves to support local organizations, this show is your front row seat to the people, trends, and ideas shaping our region. We are thrilled to welcome today Dr. Stan Ward, CEO and founder of Influence Coaching, as our next Better Business Beat guest. With a PhD in leadership studies and decades of experience as a leadership coach, educator, and author, Dr. Ward partners with high-performing leaders to help them reduce conflict, beat burnout, and foster sustainable impact change both at home and at work. Through a practical, no-nonsense approach rooted in empathy and resilience, Dr. Ward helps leaders challenge false beliefs about leadership, manage stress more effectively, and enhance collaboration across their teams. He is the author of How to Beat Burnout for Yourself, Your Family, and Your Team, and co-editor of Ethical Leadership, a primer. And he regularly shares weekly insights through his Substack, Influence Coaching. Dr. Ward, welcome.
Thank you so much, Mechele. This is fun.
Good to have you here. So let's talk about yourself a little bit. Tell us a little bit about your background and how you got to do what you're doing today.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I've been in Tyler over 20 years now. Actually came here when I was in college, worked for Pine Cove for several summers, then went on staff with them full time. So had a great experience, learned to fall in love with Tyler in the 90s. After that, went to work for Brook Hill for several years. During that season, got a PhD in leadership studies, just because I'm a real nerd. And then after that, went in higher education for a while. And during all that space, I also got connected with a woman in my PhD program who was a vice president in aerospace. And
Cool.
She pulled me aside one day and said, Stan, I think you have the makings of a great coach.
Oh, I didn't know that part of your story.
Yeah, really neat story.
Okay.
And so very grateful for her. And she gave me a new vision for what I could do next with my career. And so that was around 2011. And so that started my journey of becoming a leadership coach.
That's awesome. And you've been doing that for how long now?
So I started practicing in 2011 part-time,
Okay.
and then founded my LLC in 2014. And certainly the last 5 years have been completely leadership coaching full-time.
Oh, that's awesome. And you are one of our regular instructors for the Better Business Bureau. So you just did a session last month, as a matter of fact, in our offices.
Yes.
How did that go?
It was a lot of fun.
Awesome.
This was the first time I got to do it where you all had the Facebook Live component.
Mm-hmm.
And that added a really nice dimension to it. And of course, the people that come to those events, they're great to engage with. They ask good questions. It's interactive. So I'm really grateful for that Lunch and Learn series y'all are doing.
Oh, thank you. We're grateful for you coming out and sharing your expertise as well. And when the pandemic happened, we had to figure out hybrid ways of gathering people together. And so we thought the hybrid, having it Facebook Live, it was a good way to do it. And then we'll also house it on our YouTube channel. So if you ever want to share that with anybody, you can do that as well.
Thank you. Will do.
So on your website, I love what it says. Trying to control everything is exhausting. So true. What are some signs that leaders should watch out for to show that they're kind of sliding into that trap?
The minute you think I'm the only one that can get things done, you're in the trap.
So that probably happens a lot, but they may not realize it. What are some things that, I've always been told that a good leader is one that, and I was actually thinking about that as I was on my way here today, is that my office can run by itself. They don't really need me. I don't want to say that because job security, but they don't really need me right now, other than to set the vision and to create that environment where they're winning, right? So that's kind of where I see myself. But it is very easy to be. How do you keep yourself from feeling like you have to do everything?
So many bullet points there.
Sorry.
No, it's good. It's good. So feel free to redirect at any time. But A couple thoughts. One is um, catch yourself when you're starting to have to manage the daily operations. I love the fact that you mentioned, yeah, day to day, they can pretty much run this thing on their own. And of course, what happens then is we start to get in our heads a little bit and go, gosh, where am I providing value? I need to provide value. I need to show that I'm worth the money. And what can happen there is you can start getting into the weeds and really getting in people's way. And then it starts this really nasty cascading effect where because your people aren't being delegated to, they're not being trusted, then that means they're not growing, their capacity is not growing. So you've now officially bottlenecked the organization. And if you're not careful, it'll actually start to, it's like the wall starts to creep in on you.
What I'm grateful for is that they can do all the daily things on their own. But also, if you don't micromanage people, it allows them to be creative,
Mhm.
right? And that's where they can innovate. But it also allows me to innovate. So I'm super grateful for that. Um, so so that I guess that's what tends to happen when a leader tries to control everything. They basically are at a standstill, or like you said, bottleneck. Now you've had experience with stress and health impact yourself. Can you share kind of how that happened and what how you turn that into the leadership framework that you teach today?
Yeah. So from 2013 to 2015, I spent 2 years struggling basically to eat solid food without pain, chronic bacterial overgrowth in my gut, in and out of the hospital with bowel obstructions as an otherwise healthy 40-ish male. And the local docs really couldn't figure out what was going on. So I went to the Mayo Clinic, 2 weeks of poking and prodding by some of the best medical minds in the country. And at the end of that, my doctor sat me down and said, Mr. Ward, tell me. And of course, internally, I'm like, no, Dr. Ward, I got this PhD. But he said, Mr. Ward, tell me, how do you manage your stress? And I thought, you have got to be kidding. That's not what this is because I get things done. I don't have a problem with stress. Well, I did. There was a lot going on in the previous 6 years. I won't necessarily get into all of it. But what had happened is, yeah, I'd pushed through a lot of obstacles, a lot of challenges, both on the personal and professional side of things. And in the process, basically channeled all that stress internally. And it had, seized up my digestive system.
That's crazy.
It is. And part of that journey was learning how our nervous system works. Essentially, you're either in fight, flight, freeze, or rest, digestion, and healing. And so what had happened was I'd gone through a 6-year season of just being in chronic fight or flight and really depending on that kind of energy to get through it. Well, by definition, what was not happening? Rest, digestion, and healing.
Yeah.
And after 6 years, my body said, you're done.
So, I recently, I've been on a health journey myself. So over the past 5 years, we've had like different traumas happen in our family, right? My dad passed away, and then my mom moved in with us, and then she got sick, and then and then I lost my puppy. Um, anyway, and I just didn't feel right. And so I got a health assessment from a holistic doctor, and my adrenals were off. And so I think that was happening to me. And so, so what did they ask you to do? What were your instructions to, how did you get healthy?
One, I learned that I'm not just a brain in a box.
Hmm.
Right? So in this information-based economy, in a world where analytics is so important, it's really easy for us to just live up here. And certainly for me, again, the reason I'm bald is there's so much heat coming off this thing. It's like, but it's a fun place to hang out, right? Better than Disneyland. Um, and so one, I had to reconnect with understanding my body as a whole and appreciating the fact that I need to be aware of what's happening, where I'm feeling tension, and learning how to let go of that. You mentioned that you'd interviewed Brandon Jones a while back, and of course, working with him and Tai Chi gave me a lot of awareness in that. That was actually something that Mayo Clinic recommended.
Awesome.
Learning triggers for me, the things that start to kind of set me down that fight or flight path so that I can catch myself, because some of that would be kind of paper tiger, real tiger stuff, right? That some of the struggle, again, is recognizing because we are in an information age and an attention-based economy, the way you hold someone's attention is you convince them there's an immediate threat. And so there's a lot of money being made convincing all of us that we need to be in chronic fight or flight. And so learning how to recognize that, navigate that kind of stuff, and then just starting some new daily disciplines.
So, what's the difference between pressure and burnout, and what kind of things can we do to prevent it getting to that point?
I love that question. It's one of my favorites. So let's talk about the difference between pressure and stress. Okay, so pressure is unavoidable. It is what gets us out of bed in the morning. In fact, I was just thinking about this morning because I was laying in bed and I didn't have anything until 10 o'clock, our meeting today, and I'm teaching a night class tonight, and I thought, you know what? I don't have to get up early today, so I'm just going to let myself lay here a little bit. Why was I able to do that? Because there wasn't that pressure to get up out of bed and get to work when I'm usually getting up at 6 and getting things done. That's unavoidable. We need it, actually, to be healthy. Stress happens when we get in that fight or flight response as a reaction to the pressure. And a lot of times that happens because of rumination. What I mean by that is think of the amount of times that you've had that pressure and then you start to beat yourself up for things in the past, ways that you failed, dumb things you've done that you can't forgive yourself for, or frustrations with people in the past that have done things. So there's that rumination on the past, or there's worry about things in the future that you can't really impact, that you can't control. And what happens is that gets us in this fight or flight state. And believe it or not, we really spend the majority of our day kind of daydreaming. So learning the discipline of how to come back to what's happening right now, reconnecting with physically what's going on in my body, that helps me reset so I don't have that unnecessary stress response going on all the time.
Okay, awesome. So, you have an energy formula,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Okay, can you talk about that?
Yeah, and it's so fun because I use this a lot of times as almost like a basic assessment when I'm talking to leaders who are thinking that they may be struggling with burnout or worn out. And again, let's talk a little bit about burnout versus worn out. So think of burnout as it's like when you run your car engine without oil, it will run, but it's damaging itself while it's doing that. And so essentially a lot of times leaders get in a space where you're just pushing yourself, going by sheer willpower alone, and you're doing damage, right?
Okay.
That's where I'd gotten physically. Worn out is where it's a gasoline engine that's run out of gas. What do you got to do? Rest and refuel, and you can get back on the road. So one of the ways you can help yourself rest and refuel so that you don't get into that burnout state is measure 3 variables, okay? Variable number 1, we're going to call them your boosters. Those are the things you do where afterwards you feel like you got more energy in the tank than afterwards. So for me, recently, I've started working with a personal trainer. It's been really good for me because even though, man, I'm burning those calories and I'm really physically active and yeah, it takes a lot of energy out of me, man, the next 2 or 3 days, I feel great afterwards, right?
Sweat out those toxins.
Yeah. Or even relationally, right? I'm a little more on the introverted side. And so I do enjoy time by myself to recharge. And yet I also know I have benefited so much from hanging out with the men at my church.
Okay.
You know, wouldn't naturally do that because I don't have the spiritual gift of hanging out. But by investing that time and that energy, I come away feeling better afterwards. So those are boosters, right?
Okay.
Spending time in nature for me is another one. So there's the boosters, then there's the drainers. The drainers would be the opposite, the things where you have less gas in the tank, less energy afterwards. And a lot of life requires us to manage drainers, right? I mean, that's just the reality. That 6-year season I was going through, there were a number of health challenges, both personally and in my family. I was going to school full-time, getting my PhD. I was working full-time to pay the bills. We had young children that needed care. I'm an only child. My mom had some health issues. She was living down here in assisted living, so we were managing all that.
Right.
I couldn't really let go of any of those, right? Those were necessary drainers. And that's okay to have those seasons where the drainers may outweigh the boosters, but you can only manage that for a certain amount of time, and that's the third variable, right?
Yep.
So in my case, that 6-year season caught up with me. So when you're trying to manage your energy, you want to think about boosters, drainers, and time. Those are the 3 you can manage. What I coach people on that's counterintuitive is that when you're in that stressful season, rather than asking, what's the thing I can drop so there's less stress? Because a lot of folks you're committed to some things that are draining you. You can't just let them go. So we focus on what are the boosters that we can help you with as regular routines or creating a variety of those in your life. Because the research shows us that your ability to handle the 10,000 paper cuts of daily stress is directly related to the frequency of the boosters, the regular routine, and the variety that you have in your life.
So how do you make time for those boosters when you have that 6 years of drainers? You know what I mean? That's added to, your already busy schedule.
Yes. So one is I think sometimes we overcomplicate what boosters are.
Okay.
There's that quick 30-second reset. A lot of people talk about belly breathing. That's
What is that?
Oh, okay. So
Yeah.
why don't you do? Let's do an experiment. And if you're watching or listening, as long as you're not in the car, you can do this. So put one hand on your chest and one hand on your tummy. Okay. And I want you to just breathe normally. And notice which hand moves more, right? Is it your chest hand or your tummy hand? If your chest hand moves more, that's basically stress breathing. And we get into that for a variety of reasons, one of which could be stress. It could also just be that we're slumping over in our chairs because we're so sedentary with the information work that we're doing. Healthy breathing goes all the way down into your belly, all the way down to that diaphragmatic breathing. And what's interesting is as you do that, you're hitting reset on that nervous system. You're telling yourself that you're safe. So let's just take a moment. Again, if you're able to do this, and this is something you can do in the car as long as your eyes are open. So just inhale through the nose slowly. Let it come down into the belly. And slowly exhale. Do that one more time. Inhale through the nose. Down into the belly. Slowly exhale. And notice how you feel afterwards.
Feel better already.
Okay. That took what? 30 seconds, right?
Okay.
Level up. We're going to inhale through the nose, exhale through the belly again, or through the mouth again. This time, what I want you to do is just really focus your attention on the sensation of the air coming in your nose and going out of your mouth. And just notice the air, okay? So let's inhale through the nose. Exhale through the mouth. The nose. Exhale through the What do you notice?
A little tingly.
Yeah, crazy, right? So that is an example of getting out of your head, getting back into your body,
Okay.
getting back into the present. Time traveling kills us, whether it's worrying about the future, beating ourselves up for things in the past. It's right here, and I don't mean to sound too woo-woo, but it's right here, right now, where you can actually take action, where you can actually experience the wonders of the world, and where you can find meaning.
Okay. Awesome. That was a great exercise, and I'm actually gonna have my staff do a little belly breathing every day, just like belly breathing time.
So one of my clients, she did this every day before she ate her lunch.
Oh, okay.
And that was part of her reset routine.
That's good.
So that's the other principle is things like this, if you can tie them to other routines that you already have in your life,
Yeah.
that's going to greatly improve your chance of having success and making these things regular. So there are things like that are 30-second resets. Then there's other things that require maybe a little more intentionality. Again, for me, going to Tai Chi, which we were just talking about earlier, is one of the things I do as an intentional booster, the working out. When I was in that 6-year season, I had a very dear friend, Les Ellsworth, who some of you may know, owner of the Potpourri House. He basically said, Stan, I'm coming over to your house once a week, and I'm going to make you take a walk.
Really? I love Les. We were in a community group together at church, too.
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah, and that was such a gift because it forced me to
What a
get
good
out of
friend.
my head. It forced me, even though I felt like, oh, I've got all this stuff I got to do, I got to do this, I got to do this. He would just show up, and he'd go, let's go.
He's a good man.
He
We've got
is.
some good people in this community, don't we?
Yes, we really do. Tyler's
Yeah.
a neat place.
Yes, it is.
But that's another example of it. Ended up being a booster, even though I felt like I didn't have the time, and even though it took attention and energy that I felt like I didn't have. It's just so good. It was so neat.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Okay, well, one of my questions was, it's more than just a spa day, right? Getting
Yeah.
that self-care, but that is just one little thing that you can do.
And I want us to, that word
But spa
self-care.
days are good.
Yes, I'm
Spa
not.
days
Yeah,
are
I'm not
good.
hating on spa days. I'm a big fan of Relax Lab. Shout out to them. But I also want to say, so reframe self-care a little bit, because I grew up in rural Oklahoma, and to say self-care, people might look at you a little funny. And so think of it as self-maintenance,
Mm,
right? When we talk about this energy formula, boosters, drainers, oil changes, right? This is all about maintenance. You don't think your car is selfish when it needs an oil change, right? You
right.
do it because you know what's going to happen if you don't. You don't think your car is selfish, even though it may be frustrating when you have to replace the tires, because that's expensive. But you know what? You do it,
Right.
right? Because you know the consequence if you don't. That's how self-maintenance works.
But some people that are very, very driven and success oriented, how do they figure out what those triggers and boosters are?
Yeah, well, it helps to work with a coach, right?
Yes.
Um,
Plugs.
yeah, plugs. But that really is part of it.
Yeah.
It requires self-awareness. And what I find is these folks are so driven, they're so busy,
Mm.
they are not taking time to notice some things that need noticing, right?
Looking out so much rather than looking in, maybe.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Running forward, just always thinking about the next thing, which is another
Mhm.
kind of ruminating, by the way. Always
Another-
thinking about the next thing
Okay.
is
Yeah.
not being present right now, right?
That's true. Yeah.
Um, and so helping them learn how to reconnect with what's going on right now and pay attention to that. And it really does make them better leaders. Why? Because it helps them not micromanage.
Hmm.
It helps them learn how to manage their stress. It helps them learn how to reconnect to people, because part of leadership is not just the technical skill of getting things done, it's the skill of working with people to get things done. Leadership is not about just being the best at what you do, it's about helping other people do that. And it's a
Yeah.
very different skill set. So when people first promote into management, that's one of the things I help them work on. You got to redefine what you believe about leadership, because
Right.
those false beliefs are going to get in the way.
So many false beliefs about leadership, and a lot of old school beliefs too. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you do several different speeches, and you covered many different topics.
Mhm.
Just individually, but you also have you do workshops with corporate. Tell us some of those things that you do.
A variety of options.
Okay.
So I solve for particular problems, and I'm able to provide a variety of ways to get to those problems, right? So sometimes it is one-on-one coaching. Sometimes it's group coaching, which is be about these more long-term relationships where we're meeting on a frequent basis. Then we have workshops, which are where we get a group of people in the room, right? And it may be an hour and a half, 3 hours, a whole day, more of a facilitated experience. But again, there are things we can do to provide an assessment, some challenge where there needs to be challenge, and support where there needs to be support, so that people can address issues related to stress management, conflict resolution, burnout prevention. And so able to deliver in a variety of modes. And of course, also enjoy writing for my Substack, and just drip out little pieces of content there that folks can apply on a weekly basis, as well as my writing books. So a variety of ways to do that. You can think of it in terms of one-on-one, long-term coaching. You can think in terms of or group coaching, long-term, or you can think in terms of more focused workshops, lunch and learns, things of that nature.
Now, you've written and co-written a couple of different books. Are you working on anything currently?
I am.
Okay,
And I
awesome.
think this will play well in Tyler, it
Yeah.
being that there's a lot of churches in Tyler, right? So
Yes.
I've been spending a lot of time thinking about Psalm 1,
Okay.
and the leader in Psalm 1, right? So that person is blessed, and they're portrayed like a tree planted by streams of water,
Yes.
whose leaf does not wither and who bears fruit in due season. Even as I describe that, my tummy feels better, right? I realized about a year or so ago, when I was working with a spiritual director who had me really doing some imaginative prayer and reading through the scripture and really letting it soak in, and visualize and experience it, that, yeah, that's what I wanted to be. I wanted to be that blessed person. And that also the people I work with, that's what I want for them. So I've been writing about calling it Ever Rooted. And it's the idea of a Psalm 1 reset,
Love it.
how we can bring those principles into our lives as leaders, so that our leaf can be healthy, and so that we can share that fruit with others.
Awesome. That was one of the scriptures that, I have really trouble memorizing scripture. It's really, really hard for me unless it's in a song. And so I actually
Oh.
wrote a song, but I'm not going to sing it because I have sinus stuff. But it was with Psalm 1. So I have that one memorized that I can hear the melody in my head, and maybe off camera I'll hear it.
I think
Doing
we
it
need to
right now.
produce this. Is there some way we could connect this with this podcast
Huh?
that maybe the outro could be
Maybe.
follow the bouncing ball, we all sing
Yeah.
along? I think that'd be great.
Maybe that would be nice. Maybe another time
Oh,
when I
okay.
don't have sinus infection going on. So, all right. Okay. So your other two books, talk about those a little bit, and how can somebody get a hold of them?
Sure. Amazon, right? Thanks be for Amazon.
Yep.
So How to Beat Burnout for Yourself, Your Family, and Your Team is first and foremost a very short book, because if you're struggling with burnout, you don't have time for a long book. You don't have energy.
True.
And so in that one, I talk about some of these basic concepts about what burnout really is, the difference between burnout and worn out, again, pressure versus stress, some of those small experiments you can run to create sustainable change. Now, I do want to pitch real quick this idea of small experiments. So whether I'm coaching or doing workshops, we do spend some time designing small experiments, because when you're stuck, you need a way out. And the best thing you can do is a small experiment. Well, I've used that word a lot. What is it? So a small experiment is when you think about this larger goal that you want to achieve, and you think about what's one action that I believe would get me closer. And it has to be an action where you don't risk anything you're afraid to lose, right? And so it's a low risk or no risk action. You take the action and you just watch what happens, and you learn from it. And then you apply that learning and you take another action. So rather than getting all stressed out about did this work or not, it's like, no, what did I learn? Okay, how can I apply that so I can take more action? And it creates this virtuous cycle where it gets you unstuck. And over time, it builds up the kind of foundational habits you need to have success stay with you.
Okay, so we're almost at the end here.
Oh,
So
no.
if someone if someone finds themselves in a burnout situation, or if they just feel like they're in a professional rut, or if they're a company that would like for you to come in and work with their staff, how can somebody get a hold of you?
The easiest way to do that would be go to my website, which is coachingforinfluence.com, all one word, coachingforinfluence.com. And yes, I picked that before I thought about how long it was. Or go to LinkedIn, Stanley J. Ward at LinkedIn. Either way, easy ways to connect. And I'd be more than happy to brainstorm with you, to hear more about what you need, and even just take a short conversation to help you think about what are the next steps that you need to take. What's a small experiment you need to run so you can make progress on your goals?
All right, Dr. Ward, thank you for joining us today. Thank you for joining us on this week's edition of the Better Business Beat. I'm Mechele Mills, your host, and we will see you next week.